Okay, I've had a question in from one of my Patreon supporters, Jeremy, who says, Bill, in the last two lessons you've mentioned using a bit of pedal to stick things together, yeah, as if that were trivial, but I find that using the pedal doesn't come naturally. My teacher has taught me to pedal on chord changes, and I'm okay on that, but just sprinkling a little bit of pedal in other places when required is a stretch for my already stretched coordination. Could you give me a little bit more detail about when and how you pedal? So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take a quick look at using the pedal. Now, when piano players talk about the pedal, they almost always mean the sustain pedal, which is the right hand pedal on any pedal block. And using the magic of technology, I've got a camera underneath my piano looking at what I'm doing on the sustain pedal there, and we're going to talk about how to use it, some of the effects it has, and what you can do with it in your playing, and how you can use it to, to create kind of interesting effects. So let's take a look at the pedal block. We'll do it on my Nord, on the digital piano for now, but we will take a look at how these things work on a real piano in a minute or two. Now, any piano will have either 2 or 3 pedals. The right hand pedal is the sustain pedal, that's the one we're talking about today. The left hand pedal is the soft pedal, that uses various mechanisms on various different pianos, generally to make things quieter, but on a real piano it can also have an effect on the touch, the way the piano feels as well. That's a subject for another tutorial. The middle pedal can do all sorts of things. They tend to be sort of, patented things that different piano manufacturers offer. Sostenuto pedals that will sustain some notes and not others. On my acoustic piano downstairs, I have a practice pedal that makes everything really, really quiet. On here, as you can see, the middle pedal doesn't even work because I've taken the spring out. The spring in this pedal broke, so I took the one out of this one to replace it. I never use a middle pedal, so, by all means play around if you've got one, but it's never going to be of enormous use to you. The really important one is the sustain pedal. Now, good technique on the sustain pedal is basically to have roughly the ball of your foot on the kind of the nose of the pedal here, and actually pedaling and unpedaling should be a very, very kind of minimal movement. Yeah, we shouldn't be saying this. Yeah, it's very, very much about this. One quick thing that's worth saying is that it's important to remember that the sustain pedal doesn't sustain notes indefinitely. If you hit middle C with the sustain pedal down, yes, the note will last longer, but it will still fade. On a real piano, the middle C string or strings would gradually stop vibrating. All the sustain pedal does is keep the dampers lifted off inside a real piano, which we'll have a look at in a moment, so that the note isn't cut off straight away. Okay, so hit middle C, take the pedal off, and it goes straight away, because inside a real piano the dampers have gone back down, and obviously digital pianos mimic that. Now, the conventional advice with pedaling, and it's very strong advice, is to pedal on chord. Okay, so if you have a chord progression that goes C, G over B, A minor 7, F, you would do something like this. Pedal. That's assuming you want the kind of the kind of flowing sound that the pedal gives you. If you wanted a more detached sound, then you wouldn't use the pedal. Yeah, that's kind of a musical judgment that you need to make. Now, when I talk about pedaling, notice what that actually involved. I very quickly lifted my foot off the pedal and then straight back down, so kind of pedaling on the chord change. Let me really slow it down so you can see what's happening there. So if you look at the way that is timed, there's the C chord with the pedal down, and what I do is hit the G chord at the same time as I bring the pedal up, and then pedal back down again. Okay, change to the A minor 7 chord. As I hit the A minor 7 chord, the pedal comes up. Okay, so we're not carrying tones over from the previous chord. If I did that, I get a mess. Okay, so I'm pedaling, re-pedaling with the chord change. That's not too difficult, but it does take a little bit of practice, and it's really important to make sure that your pedaling is fairly clean between chord changes. Eventually it will become instinctive, but try to err on the side of being kind of not pedaling enough rather than pedaling too much, because that's when you get a mess. And if things are too kind of booming and resounding because you've got too much pedal down, it can be quite difficult to spot your mistakes. But a really important thing, the pedal does much more than just sustain notes in that way. Okay, let's have a look now at the inside of a real piano to understand the other effects that a pedal has. Okay, so here's my upright piano with the front taken off, so we can take a look at all the workings inside. And as you can see, things are pretty complicated and elaborate. There's lots of springs and levers and gizmos and stuff like that. The workings of a piano, we call it action. That's the technical term. And piano actions are quite complicated things, and that's because they have to do quite a sophisticated job. Let's just hit a note and see what happens. Okay, that's middle C. Now, it isn't a straightforward lever from the key to the hammer, because if it were a straightforward lever, the hammer would go forward and just hit the string and stay there and deaden the sound. That's no good. What has to happen is the hammer has to hit the key, hit the string, and fall straight back again. Okay, watch that in detail. Yeah, I say string, actually in the middle of the piano here, it's a group of strings. Each note has a group of strings assigned to it to give it a fuller sound. Now, at the same time that happens, if you look at that little bit of felt below, that's the damper. That comes off the string and allows it to ring. If I take my finger off the key, you can see the damper drops back into place. Let's do that again. Hit the string, damper up, release the key, damper back into place. Now, let's have a look what happens when I press the sustain pedal. Here we go. As you can see, all of the dampers are coming off all of the strings. And I can actually get quite a bit of resonance now just by talking. And if I were to sing a note, bum, yeah, can you hear the strings echoing back? I'm not sure whether my phone's going to pick that up. Bum, yeah, and I can just kill that echo by putting the dampers back down. Now, that has really important implications, because it means if we play a note without the pedal, we just get the strings assigned to that note ringing. Yes, there are some overtones if you know a bit about the physics of music, but by and large, most of the sound is just coming from that string or set of strings. But if we depress the sustain pedal, then all of the dampers are coming off, and we get our main note plus a ton of sympathetic resonance from the other notes. So in other words, we get a much richer, fuller sound from the piano. So it's really important to remember that the reason we use the sustain pedal isn't just to stick things together, although that's one of its most useful functions, to give flow and smoothness to a piece of music that you're playing. So to kind of answer Jeremy's question, I would say the way to get to grips with the pedal is to kind of approach it methodically, to experiment and to listen to what you're doing. Okay, a really good exercise is the one I did a few minutes ago. Just take a simple chord progression and practice pedaling on the chords, so you can stick the progression together cleanly, okay, but without without getting a lot of crossover tones making the chords messy. Okay, do that a little bit. You should find that it begins to come instinctive after a little while. The really important thing, as with all things on the piano, is to listen to the effect that different things have. If you're reading score, it really helps to know pedal markings. Okay, so here are the common pedal markings that you will see. The ped sign followed by a bracket, and then either a kind of notch in the bracket, which means re-pedal, or a star, which means end pedaling, or an end of the bracket means end pedaling. Different composers and editors use different markings. Sometimes you'll just see the marking con pedale or con ped, which means use the pedal. If you come across a piece of music that has pedal markings, don't assume that those are the only places where you should use the pedal, because you can use them elsewhere in the piece. Composers tend to use pedal markings to say you should use the pedal here. Okay, elsewhere use it if you want to, but here you should definitely be using the pedal. Likewise, if you come across a piece of music that doesn't have pedal markings, don't assume that you can't use the pedal. Often composers will write a piece of music and just assume that you'll use a pedal because that's what piano players do, yeah? If they really want to say don't use the pedal, there will be some sort of note, yeah? Senza pedale, or, you know, don't use the pedal or something like that. So try this stuff for yourself. As always, use your ears. If you have any questions or comments, stick them in the comment thread. As you know, I'm always happy to help. Don't forget to follow me on social media. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok links are all below. And please do check out my Patreon crowdfunding campaign, which is where, of course, this question came from in the first place, over at patreon.com/Bill Hilton. It doesn't cost very much to support me on Patreon, but you can get some really, really great benefits for it, okay? Also, I've got various books and things and bundle deals that you might like to check out. Just take a look at the little YouTube cards in the top right hand corners of the screen, and also again in the description text down below to find out more about those. Okay, happy piano playing. I'll see you next time.